Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever wondered why certain things, whether it's a conversation, a sound, or even just a smell, can spark such strong emotional reactions in you? Maybe it's anger, sadness, or anxiety that feels way too intense for the situation at hand. Well, what you're experiencing are emotional triggers, and today, we're diving into everything you need to know about them to improve your mental resilience and bring more peace into your life. Stay tuned because we're about to explore 7 powerful ways to identify and manage emotional triggers. You'll want to make it to the end because the last technique is a real game changer. Let's get started. 1. What are emotional triggers? Understanding the basics. Let's first set the stage. What exactly are emotional triggers? Think of them as those invisible buttons inside you that, when pressed, spark a huge emotional response. This can come out of nowhere. Maybe someone said something that didn't seem like a big deal, but it hit you like a ton of bricks. That's your emotional trigger at work. These triggers are highly personal. For some people, it's tied to past trauma, unresolved pain, or unmet emotional needs. For others, their trigger might be as small as a particular word or tone of voice. And here's the kicker. Often, the emotions triggered feel disproportionate to the moment. For example, have you ever found yourself avoiding certain situations without fully understanding why? Or maybe your heart starts racing, or you feel physically sick in certain settings. Those physical signs, like dizziness or a pounding heart, could be clues that an emotional trigger has been activated. Understanding this is the first step. We can't fight what we don't acknowledge. So, stick with me, because we'll uncover how to pinpoint these triggers and take back control. 2. Why emotional triggers matter and why you should care. Now you might be wondering, okay, but why should I care about emotional triggers? Well, this section might just open your eyes. Emotional triggers affect far more than just how you feel in random moments. They can influence your relationships, confidence, and even your overall mental health if left unchecked. Here's an example. Imagine someone who explodes in anger every time they feel criticized, even if the criticism is constructive. Without realizing, they might push people away, damage work relationships, or spiral into self-doubt later on. Emotional triggers can trap you in what feels like an endless cycle. And the worst part is, most of us go through life not understanding what's happening. But if you can learn to recognize and manage these triggers, you're giving yourself the ultimate superpower, control over your emotional reactions. And that, my friends, is life-changing. Remember, your triggers aren't necessarily your fault. They often stem from past experiences, but they are your responsibility to address. Ready for the next step? Let's dive into how to identify those sneaky triggers. 3. How to spot your emotional triggers. Self-reflection tools. All right, let's get practical. How do you actually figure out what your emotional triggers are? The key here is self-reflection and paying close attention to your emotional reactions. Here are 3 actionable methods that work wonders. Monitor your emotions. The next time you find yourself feeling unusually upset, pause and ask yourself, what just happened? Was it something someone said, a tone of voice, or even just the environment you were in? Often, your triggers reveal themselves in those moments of intensity. Reflect on past events. Think back to times when you reacted strongly to something. What was the common denominator? Was there a specific situation, person, or phrase that seemed to set you off? Journaling. This might sound cliché, but writing can be a powerful tool. When you jot your feelings down, along with what triggered them, you'll start to notice patterns. Over time, this emotional fingerprint will help you clearly identify your biggest triggers. For example, maybe you notice that every time you're in a crowded space, you feel anxious or overwhelmed. That's a pattern worth investigating. Journaling isn't just for venting. It's a way to uncover the hidden forces behind your emotions. 4. Mindfulness. The ultimate tool to manage emotional triggers. Once you've started recognizing your triggers, what can you do about them? Step 1. Mindfulness. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this simple practice can completely shift how you react to triggers. Mindfulness is all about staying present in the moment. You know that overwhelming spiral of overthinking that happens when you're triggered? Mindfulness teaches you to just observe those feelings instead of getting lost in them. Here's how you can practice mindfulness. The next time someone says or does something that triggers you, take 3 slow, deep breaths. It sounds simple, but it instantly calms your body's fight or flight response. Practice grounding exercises, like focusing on the sights and sounds around you or feeling your feet on the floor. These moments help anchor you back to the present. By using mindfulness, you're no longer reacting on autopilot. Instead, you're giving yourself space to choose your response. And that small shift? It makes a world of difference. 5. Reframing your mindset, the power of cognitive restructuring. Let's talk about a technique that psychologists swear by, cognitive restructuring. Big term, but don't worry, it's pretty straightforward. This is all about challenging the negative thoughts that arise when you're triggered and replacing them with something more constructive. For example, let's say someone says something that makes you feel worthless. Your instinctive thought might be something like, "I'll never be good enough." But by using cognitive reframing, you stop and think, "Wait, maybe that comment says more about them than it does about me. I am capable and have achieved a lot." It's not about toxic positivity or ignoring your feelings. Instead, it's about redirecting your mental energy into thoughts that are helpful, not harmful. Train yourself to challenge those spiraling thoughts consistently. And over time, they'll lose their grip on you. It's like rewiring your brain, and yes, you can do it. 6. Set boundaries, your emotional safety net. Next up, let's talk about protecting yourself from unnecessary emotional strain. Setting boundaries is critical for managing emotional triggers. And yet, so many people avoid it because they fear confrontation. But here's the deal. Healthy boundaries are about respecting your emotional needs. For example, if certain people in your life constantly make you uncomfortable, consider limiting your time with them or communicating how you feel. If specific environments overwhelm you, give yourself permission to say no or leave. Sometimes protecting your emotional well-being means putting you first. And that's not selfish, it's essential. When you create a safe space for yourself, you're less likely to get triggered so intensely or so often. Start small. The next time a situation feels emotionally unsafe, ask yourself, what boundary could I set here? And don't be afraid to enforce it. Trust me, the peace of mind is worth it. 7. When to seek professional help and why it's worth it. Finally, let's address a crucial point. Some emotional triggers are too deep or overwhelming to manage alone. This is when reaching out to a therapist or counselor can make a world of difference. For example, if your triggers are tied to past trauma, therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or EMDR can be incredibly effective. These therapies help you confront deep-seated wounds in a safe, controlled environment, ultimately helping you process and reframe that pain. Here's a great way to think about it. If you had a physical wound that wasn't healing, you'd see a doctor, right? Your emotional health deserves the same care. Seeking professional help isn't a sign of weakness. It's an investment in your well-being. And let's be real, sometimes having an expert guide you through this process is just what you need to regain control over emotional triggers that once felt impossible to conquer. Final thoughts. Take control of your emotional triggers. So there you have it. 7 ways to better understand, identify, and manage your emotional triggers. To recap, start by understanding what emotional triggers are and why they matter. Reflect and journal to uncover your own unique triggers. Use mindfulness to stay grounded in the present. Reframe negative thoughts with cognitive restructuring. Set boundaries to break free from unhealthy patterns. Practice exposure to triggers in small, controlled steps to build resilience. Seek professional help if your triggers feel too overwhelming to handle alone. Here's the thing. Emotional triggers don't have to control your life. By understanding them and taking proactive steps, you can reclaim control over your reactions and truly enhance your relationships, mental well-being, and overall quality of life. Now, before you go, let me know in the comments, have you noticed any triggers in your own life? And which of these techniques are you excited to try first? Let's keep the conversation going. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep diving into topics like this and continue growing together. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.